So what I want to talk today about is the first plague, till everyone figures out exactly the source sheet is and everything. So like this. How many plagues are there? If I would ask anyone how many plagues were in Egypt, I think everyone would say, obviously, 10 plagues were in Egypt. So in this lesson, what I want to do show it's not that simple. Okay? I want to show you guys how there's the amount of plagues that were in Egypt. It's not just a black and white question. We see this question, you have it there? Okay, right. Okay. So we'll start with the first source in the sheet. Just 1 second. Okay, so the Mishnah, here it's open again. Now I'm getting my computer open. Okay, so sorry again. Sorry for the confusion and everything last time. Last time I apologize. Okay, so how many plagues are in Egypt? Classic answer 10, but it's actually, if you look in the sources in the Torah, it never says how many. If you count them, you get to 10, but it actually doesn't say how many plagues there are. Now I want to show you that again, it's not so simple. So we'll start with the first source that actually says there's 10 plagues. Now, don't get me wrong. If you count the plagues, you get to 10. But we'll see it's not so simple. Like if you want to count the coronavirus as a plague, how many plagues would you count the coronavirus as? There's the death toll, there's the financial toll, there's the emotional plague. There's so many different aspects of the plague that you don't know exactly how to count a plague as 1, as 2, as 3. We all know the Gemara, the famous story in the Haggadah. Okay? So the first source that actually says that there's 10 plagues is the Mishnah. That's the source number 1. 10 nisim nasu lavotenu b'Mitzrayim, 10 al hayam. 10 miracles God did in Mitzrayim, 10 in the sea, and 10 plagues, 10 makot. הביא הקדוש ברוך הוא במצרים ו10 על הים. So here's the first source that is 10. All right, but everyone is famous. So another last comment about the shir. The first 2 pages of the shir of the source sheet, I'm going through like this. Okay, I'm just going through it really quickly because the main part I want to do is the last part. And since I started a little late, I don't want to take too much of your time. So I'm going to go through the first 5 sources pretty quickly, and then we're going to focus on the 7th source. Okay. All right, so the famous Haggadah story counts the makot differently, right? It says, Amar Rabbi Eliezer, מניין שכל מכה ומכה שהביא הקדוש ברוך הוא על מצרים במצרים הייתה של 4 מכות. How do we know that every makkah, every plague in Egypt was actually 4 מכות? שנאמר, וישלח בם חרון אפו, עברה וזעם, וישלח את מלאכי רעים, עברה אחת. So here's a pasuk. We're going to get to this pasuk. You see, it's an important pasuk. Yishlach b'charon apo, he sent them his anger, his zam, his tzara, yishlach al melachei ra'im. Yeah, here, you see the source sheet now? It's uploaded. Okay, great. So he says this. So he says Evra is 1. Every makkah had all these different aspects in it. And Evra, zam, tzara, yishlach al melachei ra'im. That's 4. Then Rabbi Akiva says, no, every makkah in Egypt was actually of 5 makot. And he brings the same pasuk. Again, we have to ask, what's so special about this pasuk? Why is this pasuk brought by Shlach Bam, that God sent in them, a pasuk in Tehillim, and then he reads it as 5 things. Evra is Haron Apo, his anger as 1, Evra Zam, Shlach Machareim as 5. And then we end up with 50 makot in Mitzrayim. Okay, so first of all, what is that? What do we gain from adding makot to Mitzrayim? So I read someone that wrote that it says that every makkah that we put in Egypt, we won't get. So the more makot that we put in Egypt, then the more stuff that won't happen to us. That's a vort. But I think there is actually an idea of not so clear how we count the makot. Okay? Sorry. So let's now skip a second to source number 5. All right? Source number 5. This is a parak in Tehillim that goes through a lot of the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim, of the whole, like a long story. I took it from the end, and it starts going through the 10 plagues. Now I'll give you guys a minute to go look at them. This one and source number 5 and source number 6. It kind of I put in bold all when it counts the makot. Now notice how it's not in the right order. Like for example, pasuk mem daled, you start with ve'afoch Elohim ledam. Dam is the first one, but the second one is mem hey is arov, and then it's fardea. Meaning that the Tehillim, as Tehillim is a song, doesn't go telling you the flat story. Because if it's telling the story, it's not a song. For a song to be a song, it has to tell you in like a fancy way. So it doesn't have it by order, but also notice how it doesn't have all 10. It has dam, arov, sfardea, chasil, which is arbe, but then it also has arbe, so that counts as 1. Then it has chanamel, which is barad, and it has barad. And then look at pasuk memtet. Notice pasuk memtet, where's it familiar for us from? Vaishlach bam charon apo evra vezam mishlachat malachei reim. That's our pasuk that all the Tanaim are learn from there that there's more than 10 makkot. That every makkah was actually composed out of 4 makkot. They learn it from this pasuk over here. That's in the middle of Tehillim, describing the 10 plagues. We have Vaishlach bam charon apo evra vezam mishlachat malachei reim. Okay. So that's first of all, now we understand when they understood it was more than 4 makkot, because this pasuk has to do with the makkot of Mitzrayim, of course. But also, we still have a problem here. There's not 10. Raise your hand if you figure out which one's missing. Yeah, Shmuel?
It's missing kinim, dever.
Kinim. Okay. And what else? Is a tricky one.
Dever?
No, Dez, v'chayatam dever. The one to last one is dever. It's missing the choshech. Second. You see the choshech is missing. It says there lo chasach, which hints to the makav choshech, but it doesn't actually say the word choshech in it. So we're missing the makat choshech and missing makat kinim. How come? Were they part of another makkah? Was dam and was kinim only like a consequence of tzfardea? Like I know some people try to say that the makat dam, the makat tzfardea, after they died, the kinim came to eat them. That was the kinim, and then it affected the people. But it's actually just a consequence of makat dam, and if makat tzfardea. If you know, there's no warning about it. It just kind of happens. Doesn't say, God, I'll give you kinim unless you let many people go. It just happens. Okay, so that's one thing of Tehillim. The next thing in Tehillim, it also repeats again the 10 makot. People free, if you have any questions, anything unclear, just feel free and ask. Let's unmute yourself if you know how and do it. Okay, so here again you have 10 makot in a different order. Here we have choshech. Here we have kinim. If you look at pasuk lamed aleph, we have kinim. V'amar v'yavo arov kinim. He seems to think that arov and kinim are the same or together. Now we don't know exactly what arov is. We explain it as wild animals, but it's one word that appears one time in the whole Tanakh. So who knows exactly what it means? But it's also still one missing. Which one's missing? Is one missing also in the other one? Another one that was missing in the other one. That was Shchin. Shchin seems to not be in either one of them. Again, Shchin may have been seen as not as the actual plague itself, rather a consequence of...
I think, Moshe, Shchin is mentioned. It says, Nafsham v'chayatam ledever esgir. Nafsham is their body, chayatam is their... Like the devil for the people might be hinting to the Shchin.
That could be. It says that said in the first one. It says chayatam adever and nafsham v'chayatam. It's that not only that they had a plague on the people too, and the plague on the people wasn't death; it was boils. All right, that's already a commentary. It doesn't say that explicitly. You have to understand. You have to think what it means, though. that what is it, dever to the nefesh, which one that was talking about makat bechorot, because it mentions it afterwards. Okay, but good point. It could be that's what it's hinted inside, but it doesn't say explicitly the word shchin. Maybe again, shchin is also one of the makot. That guy doesn't warn them about that. It just kind of happens right after. So maybe it's seen as one of those makot that is a consequence of another makah and not actual its own play. Okay, so that we finished the stage number 1 of the shir, showing that it's not so clear how many makot there are. Now we're used to saying 10. Already the Chazal were there 50, is there 40, and we see already also in Tehillim we go a step back, and we say that in Tehillim they didn't count 10. They weren't sure how to count the plagues, which one's 2, which one's 3, which one's 4, and so it's some ambiguity about how many plagues there are. Now I want to take even another step back and go all the way to the Torah, and to show that in the Chumash, in Shemot, it's not so clear how many plagues we have. Okay? Now we're down to the 3rd page. We're going to jump at some point back to the 2nd page of the source sheet for a few small references. The 1st page of the source sheet for a few references. But right now, I want to show you the first plague, what we call Makat Dam. Okay? Everyone has it? Give me a minute to figure where it is. The last one. What I want to show you guys is there's actually 2 plagues. I call them plague A and plague B. 2 plagues of blood that are very different, and they come for 2 different reasons. So first of all, I want to show you guys that there are 2 different ones. Then I want to show you that why is there a difference? Why do we need 2 plagues? What does each plague symbolize? Why couldn't they do 1 plague which has both components in it? Okay, so look, I set the plagues. Now, some of you may be familiar with like Bereshit Aleph and Bereshit Bet, how chapter 1 in Bereshit and chapter 2 in Bereshit are retelling the story of the creation of the world. It's like a double creation. You created one way in chapter 1, and in chapter 2, it's created in a slightly different way. Some would say even the opposite way. That's kind of famous. Rabbi Soloveitchik wrote about it, the man 1, man 2. What's the essence of man according to chapter 1? What's the essence of man according to chapter 2? So what we have here is something kind of similar. Again, we have two sides to the plague of blood. But here it's very strange. Well, in chapter 1 and chapter 2 of Bereshit, we have chapter 1 and chapter 2. They're 2 separate chapters, and each one is written differently. Here, they're sewed into each other. You have the plague A and plague B. If you didn't hear this before, you would have noticed that there's 2 plagues. Only because they're sewed into each other. You have the first commandment, it's sewed into the second commandment. Then you have the execution of the first one, and then you have the execution of the second one. Then you have the ending of the plague, and the ending of the next plague. And they're entwined into each other that if you read it, you feel like it repeats itself, but you won't notice that it's actually 2 different plagues happening in the same time. All right, so that's what I want to show you guys. What I did here in the chart, I didn't move anything out of order. I just moved, when it's plague A, I put in the right-hand side, then I just did like a space, and it continues. Like Pasuk Yud Chet, the end of the commandment of plague A, it goes, the plague, the Pasuk Yud Tet, and it starts the plague B. Then it continues. I didn't change any Pasuk here out of order. I just shifted one to this side, one to the other side. Okay? Without further ado, let's start with the commandment of plague A. Pasuk Tet Vav. It's on the chart there. If I suggested you want to bring a Tanakh to see the English, I'm going to translate it as I go along, but you're welcome to go get a Tanakh and to help you translate. Okay, Lech el Paro, as God commands, of course, Moshe, go to Pharaoh. ואמרת בבוקר, והנה יוצא המימה, והצבת לקראתו על שפת האור. Go in the morning, because Pharaoh would, of course, go in the morning to do his deeds, because he pretended to be a god. So he had to go in the morning when no one was looking to do what he had to do. And he said, stand over there by the Yaor, והצבת לקראתו על שפת האור, והמטה אשר נהפך לנחש תיקח בידיך. Now here is a very big misconception. He doesn't go to the Yaor and take a staff. Which staff? Hamateh asher nehepach lenachash. The staff that turned into a snake. What other staff could there be? So he wants to have the same staff that used into a snake. When did Moshe turn his staff into a snake? People, when they say that, they automatically think about the staff that the 8 Pharaoh's staffs. Everyone remembers that. And now he made a staff, and the staff turned into a snake, or turned back into a stick. Then it ate the staffs of the other snakes of the other staffs of the other Chaltumim. That's not true here, because if you look, that was Aaron's staff that turned into a tanin, which is a crocodile. The staff that turned into a snake is when God came to Moshe in the beginning, save my people, and he wanted 2 signs. One, he took his hand inside and it becomes out tzarat, and the second one, he throws it down and turns into a snake. So when it says the staff turned into a snake, it's Moshe's staff and not Aaron's staff. Because Aaron's staff would turn into a crocodile. If you look in Rashi says that a snake and a crocodile are the same thing, which there is some proofs for that, but what it says from Moshe turns his staff into a snake, and a few psukim later it says that Aaron turned into a tanin. It could have used the same word. It wants to differentiate between a snake and a crocodile. Okay? What do you tell him? אדוני אלוהי העברים שלחני אליך לאמור שלח את עמי ויעבדוני במדבר והנה לא שמעת עד כה. You know, the famous let my people go. This is the first time he stands in front of Pharaoh, surprises him, tells him, let my people go. It's not a game anymore. And now he threatens it. כה אמר השם בזאת תדע כי אני אדוני והנה אנוכי מכה במטה אשר בידי על המים אשר ביאור ונהפכו לדם. Who's I? I'm putting emphasis on this again, because you all know the midrash that will say something different. It says, you, Moshe, take your staff, and what you should do, you should hit the Yaor, hit the Nile, and it will turn into blood. All right, who's supposed to hit? Moshe is supposed to hit. Okay? Then, what's going to happen? Hadaga asher be'yaor tamut, uva'ash ha'yaor, v'nil'u mitzrayim mishtot mayim min ha'yaor. I think the word that's pretty obvious what word here is the emphasis in this pasuk, and that's the word Yaor. It says he hits the Yaor, and then it says in the same pasuk that the fish in the Yaor will die, the Yaor will stink, the people won't be able to drink water from the Yaor. So where's the blood going to be? In the Yaor. That's the only place the blood's going to be. It's inside the Yaor. Moshe is supposed to hit it, and it's supposed to be inside the Yaor. Now, if I ask you, wait, doesn't the blood all over Egypt, and the Jew would want to drink it, and then it would become good, and then the Goy would drink it, and it would become blood? That's what we learned. And we also learn that Moshe Rabbeinu is not the one that hit it. He gave it to Aaron because the water saved Moshe, so he didn't want to be a kfui tova. So he had Aaron do it for him. Where did that come from? So that's actually, I feel the midrash got something right here, but they got it exactly wrong. I'll explain what that means. Okay, so first of all, now we go to the second commandment, and this is where the midrash is gonna start saying what he said about Aaron, because now we have a new commandment. V'yomer Hashem el Moshe, emor el Aaron. After God told him, you take the staff, you do it, he says a new commandment. ויאמר אהרון, קח את מטך ונטה ידך על מימי מצרים, על נאורותם, על יאוריהם ועל אגמיהם, ועל כל מקווה מימיהם. He says, first, tell Aaron, take your staff. Whose staff? Now it's Aaron's staff. It's not the same staff. And where is he supposed to hit? Only on the Nile? No. It says hit all the waters of Egypt. The Naharot, the rivers, Yeorim, the Niles, the Agamim, the ponds, Kol mikveh mayim, every concentration of water place, every mikveh of water, he should hit. V'yu dam. And then they'll all turn into blood. V'yad dam bechol eretz Mitzrayim ba'etzim u'va'avanim. There'll be blood in all of Egypt, in the rocks and in the trees. This is very different. The first one said the blood's going to be only in the Nile. Of the Nile will be all blood, and the fish in the Nile will die and they'll stink, but it'll be only in the Nile. Suddenly, there's another commandment to Aaron to do it, and not only that Aaron does it, he has to hit every little source of water, and then they'll all turn blood in all of Egypt. Okay, and then what the pasuk right after pasuk kaf is the the execution of the first one, of the second one. Ve'asu ken Moshe ve'Aaron. Moshe and Aaron did it, so we know it's the second one. Kasher tzivah Hashem, just like God commanded. Now, in middle of the pasuk, okay? In the middle of the pasuk, suddenly it changes. Vayarem b'mateh. He raised his staff. Who raised the staff? Yes, Tafo. I can't hear you.
To add on to what you said, you hear me?
I still can't hear you.
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
I said, to add on to what you said, it doesn't say Aaron hit. It says he natei yadcha. He just pointed. Moshe was commanded to hit the Nile, because you can hit the Nile. It's one place. Aaron is only commanded to point. It says natei yadcha. Point at all the waters of Egypt, and you can point at whatever you want. You just point in every direction. That way, you can point in everything. It's not possible for Aaron to actually hit every mikveh mayim. That's why the pasuk is medayek. And I'm just proving what you said.
Yeah, good point.
Moshe is commanded to hit. And Aaron's commanded to point at every other water source.
I 100% agree. 1 second.
Aaron points to all around.
Yeah.
He's pointing.
Was asking something? Okay. So, I agree with you with the fact that he can't actually go to a million places at once. He just has to point like a magic wand, I would say. Hungarian Leviosa to the thing, and then he has to point it, and then it affects those leaves. It's actually hitting. Now, what's the difference in hitting and hitting and waving? Waving is more magic, and hitting it has like some violent connotation to it. You hit when you're angry, when you're frustrated, like Moshe Rabbeinu, he gets frustrated at some point, and he hits the water, and he gets punished because of that. 1 second. All right. So now, 1 second. Sorry. Just charge my phone. Yes. Okay. Excellent. All right. So now, who picks it up? Moshe picks it up. It's one singular. Asher b'mayim lenefaro, in front of the water, in front of Pharaoh. It's not somewhere in the magic spell. It's in front of Pharaoh. And and all the water in the Nile turns into blood. Not all over Egypt, only in the Nile. This is exactly like Pasuk Yudchet. And the fish died. And the Yor stunk. And that's exactly word for word almost what happened, what God said was going to happen in Pasuk Yudchet. So we see that Pasuk Kaf Aleph is exactly the execution of the first plague. So now we have the commandment and the execution of both plagues. We still have to figure out what's the idea between them. What's the point of having two different plagues and putting them intertwined? And what's the difference between a violent plague and a more magical plague? Here, someone here could argue with me. I can hear your argument, but I'll tell you what I think how the plague ends. Okay? Then, first of all, it goes to execution B, split into two. It's at the end of Pasuk Kaf Aleph, it says, V'hi hadam bechol eretz Mitzrayim. All the land of Egypt were blood, not only in the Nile. This goes back to what God says was going to happen from Aaron waving his wand, his staff. Okay, so now the ending. ועשו חרטומי מצרים בלהטיהם, ויחזק לב פרעה ולא שמע כאשר דיבר השם. The magicians of Pharaoh do the same thing. They also do make blood. Now, it's a bit surprising. Like, what would you think they would do if Moshe brings blood? So what are they going to do to show their strength? Undo the blood, turn it back into water. Imagine, like, I made your food too salty. Oh, you made it too salty? I'll add more salt. You have a plague of blood, and they say, oh, you think you're so strong? I can also do blood. That's not what they should have been doing. What do they do when they also make blood? They're trying to show that they're just as strong. I mean, they don't care about the plague itself. They don't care about the people not having water to drink. They don't care about anything. All they care is to show that their God is as strong as our God. Your God can make water into blood. Also, we can make water into blood. Now, some people try to say that this goes to the first plague of the where only the Nile was blood, because in that case they could have water from another source. Because where did they get water from to turn into blood? If everything was blood. But I think no. I don't know exactly where they got the water from, but this is obviously, in my opinion, belongs to the ending of the plague B, of Aaron's plague, because it's a fight here between whose sorcerer is stronger: God's sorcerer, Aaron, the Kohen Gadol, future Kohen Gadol, or Moshe, or the Adomim, which are Aaron, our Pharaoh's magicians. So they say, oh, your God is stronger. Let's see. Our God could do the same thing. Eventually, they can't do the same thing, but at this stage, the first plague, they could still do it. And the next ending, the ending of plague A, the Egyptians dig around the Yaor to find water, which makes sense because there's only a problem inside the Nile. Only the Nile is blood. You could dig around the Nile to find water. From the Nile itself, they couldn't drink. From around the Nile, they could drink. I mean, not all of Egypt were blood, only a certain area, only the Nile was blood. And then 7 days it took for the water to undo, and then that's where the plague ends. Okay? So I think we proved we clearly have two separate plagues. One plague is only in the Nile, done by Moshe Rabbeinu, and ends after 7 days. Another plague done by Aaron, who makes the water, doesn't hit, he just like waves his staff, makes blood all over, and that ends with the Egyptians doing the same thing. So I want to claim why you have two. Why is one Aaron do, one Moshe do? And I think it's hinted in the first pasuk of the plague, pasuk Tetvav. וניצבת לקראתו על שפת היאור, והמטה אשר נהפך הנחש שכך בידיך. וניצבת לקראתו. You stood לקראתו. Now that reminds us of another pasuk. That's in source number... Source number 3. Sorry, no, source number 4. When Moshe is born, it says, "Vatara Isha v'teled ben." She hid him for 3 days, 3 months, 30 days, 3 months. And then again she sends him. Yocheved sends him on the Yaor, but Yatzav achoto merachok, and Miriam stands following him. He uses the same word, Yatzev asfat Yaor. This may be a vort, but I think the idea is true that, I don't know if there's any Harry Potter fans. I'm just a Harry Potter fan, that's why I mentioned the one beforehand, and is the story about the boy who lived. Harry Potter is a boy who survived. Moshe Rabbeinu is the only boy out of the, who knows, hundreds or thousands of babies that were thrown in the Nile and drowned. Moshe Rabbeinu is the only one that survived. He's the boy who lived, of the baby who lived, out of all the babies. All right? So we what does it symbolize that Moshe Rabbeinu hits the Yaor? Now the Gemara says, no, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't hit it because the Yaor saved him. But actually, the Yaor killed all the other babies. And he's the only baby that survived. So I think he has to hit the Yaor because he's supposed to be the vet of the Yaor into blood symbol, which is true, and you're hitting the God of the Egyptians, making him bleed. But actually, I think it's supposed to symbolize the blood of all the hundreds and thousands of babies that were thrown in. Moshe Rabbeinu, his job in this first Makkah is to avenge the blood of all those babies. So he hits a Makkah. He's violent. It's supposed to be a punishment for Egypt. He hits and turns the water, the Nile, into blood because the Nile is where the babies were drowned. And he has to do it because he's the baby that lived. So he, in the name of all the dead babies, he hits the Yaor and punishes Egypt. This plague it's not trying to show who's stronger. This plague is only trying to show that you guys deserve a punishment. That's why it leaves after 7 days of a punishment. Aaron, on the other hand, he has a different purpose. He's like the magician of God, the sorcerer of God, and the magician. So he has to be stronger. He's stronger than the other gods. So he turns everything into blood to show how strong he is. And to fight him, you don't turn the water back into water, the blood back into water. You have to show that your guy is just as strong. And they too could turn it into blood. So we see here we have two different purposes for the makot. One is punishment for the Mitzrayim. That has to be done by Moshe Rabbeinu. And one is to show that God is stronger than all the other gods. And that he does through turning everything into blood. It's not a punishment. It's more showing God's strength. Now, these two sides of Makot Mitzrayim are true in all the Makot. Like some is a punishment, some is showing how strong God is. Okay? And I think you want to find this double story. It continues perfectly also in the Makkah of Tzfardeh. You have 2 commandments, 2 plagues, 2 everything, also in the Makkah of Tzfardeh. But in that sense, you have the whole thing is one of these purposes. Is it to punish the Mitzrayim, or is it to save the thing? So that's what I want to show you guys. That again, you have one plague, it's actually 2 plagues. So there, every plague has a lot more aspects, sides, purposes to it. Thank you very much for listening. Sorry for the mix-up in the times at the beginning again. Have a Chag Sameach.